Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're all having an absolutely incredible day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. You should already know exactly what time it is. In the cryptocurrency space, everyone is looking for, two, but mainly one specific thing to happen over the course of the next couple of months. The co-founders of the blockchain analytics platform known as Glassnode are expressing bullish sentiment on Bitcoin. This should actually come as no surprise, as I do not think that there are many people left who are expressing anything negative and or bearish about the cryptocurrency market. It is lovely to hear the silence of the people who were talking about that Bitcoin was going to drop back down to 20,000. Even when we got over, I think it was like $33,000 or $34,000, there were a couple of people on Twitter who were like, well, Bitcoin has to go back down to 20. I'm not sure if they just like lying to people or if their charts have simply been wrong for the last 27 years, but people continue to follow them. I'm not exactly sure. Glassnode co-founders Jan Happel and Jan Alleman, who share a Twitter handle on Twitter, say that the gold to Bitcoin ratio has, and I quote, taken off and is currently on an upward trend. My goodness, at some point we will eventually get there. We will reach the future. We will get to the point where Bitcoin is supposed to pass by a certain US dollar amount and therefore also pass by the entire value of gold. This is something, a literal tale as old as time that's been around for a very long time within the cryptocurrency space. If you've ever heard anyone say Bitcoin as digital gold, that's the idea. In very quick, plain terms, we as humans have used shiny metal from the ground for a very long time because we were told to do so for the last 4,000 or 5,000 years. People dug a little bit, they found some shiny stuff, and they were like, well, this has to have value, as people believed it was from the heavens and all these other kinds of things. They made jewelry out of it. Some people put it in their mouths. Some people put it around their necks and their arms, what have you. By the time we got to the good old, or the terrible old, 1700s, where there weren't a lot of medicine, people then began to hold gold, and even before then, as a way of measuring money. Hey, we have this amount of gold, we can make this amount of coins from it to redistribute amongst our people. The idea basically is that as we are in the future, let me try and say this nicely. So we know that gold is not finite, in that it was widely believed, and an idea that was held 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years ago, that at some point we would stop finding gold. However, with current technology, we keep finding more gold. And the issue is that as the future goes on and we make newer technologies, we will continue finding even more gold. You might have heard from a number of eccentric billionaires who want to go into space that they want to start asteroid mining. Do you want to know why? Because the asteroids are also filled with metals as well. So the idea is that they'll find a whole bunch of metals and they'll bring them back to Earth, but then that also means that basically these things are abundant across the entirety of the galaxy universe. Dragging it back in, the idea is that as everything becomes more digital and we live more of our lives online in many different ways, Bitcoin essentially would fill the role for gold. And we saw this a number of years ago, where a number of analysts began to say that they assumed in the future, as more people got into Bitcoin and the network continued growing, people would look and say, hey, we keep finding more gold every single year. That's a problem. However, with Bitcoin, we can measure for the next 117 years at the time of me making this video as to how much Bitcoin that there's ever going to be. We should base our new financial system off of this thing that we know is completely finite, that billions of people around the world can use, that you can store millions of dollars worth onto a USB drive, as opposed to having to try and get into an airplane and explaining why you have multiple boxes full of metal that they won't let you put on it. It's basically like the future. The idea would be for Bitcoin. And that same exact idea, some of the predictions from years ago were that people would eventually begin to sell off their precious metals simply because they would realize that they could not and were not keeping up with Bitcoin. You've seen the chart before, $1 into Bitcoin, $1 into gold. Was it 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago? You'd have millions in Bitcoin. You'd have $1.90 something cents worth of gold. I think like $1.17. I remember exactly what it was. Anyway, gold's terrible. So the biggest catalyst for all of this has been, you might remember an article, it might have been the beginning of the year or sometime last year, but we definitely had it. A number of fund managers have begun seeing that funds that they keep track of have begun to sell off their gold certificates, their paper gold in some sort of way. Estimations of how much a given company may actually have in gold. And the idea is that they might be selling it off to buy in Bitcoin as we see more institutions getting into it. And then eventually we would come to the conclusion that, as a collective, as a planet, Bitcoin is the best performing asset in all of history. It's up by several million % since the very beginning, and it is expected to only continue to do that as we get to a world where Bitcoin goes over $1 million, $10 million, $100 million per coin. The really big Bitcoin to gold ratio is basically once we pass by the market cap of gold, and I say this in the nicest tone, anyone who still has gold as an investment at that point will be like, oh, snitted apps, I should have gotten something else because Bitcoin was clearly the answer. And it appears that we are now near that time. We are now in the future relative to 2017, 16, 15, 14, where a lot of these predictions were being made, and the Glassnode co-founders are talking about that it appears that the ratio of Bitcoin to gold, that is the stock to flow, that also encompasses the amount being created every year. We see more and more gold being created every year. And every 4 years, we see that the amount of Bitcoin being created gets cut in half. That's what has taken off and is currently on the upward trend for Bitcoin to actually surpass and overtake gold. It says the gold to Bitcoin ratio is currently at 18.8 and is the value of Bitcoin relative to the price of gold. According to the Glassnode co-founders, the gold to Bitcoin ratio could surge to a 3-figure level. They said, and I quote, "We may see that the gold to BTC ratio levels hits greater than 100, which means one Bitcoin will be valued 100 times more than 1 ounce of gold. Major risk on move may be coming." And then they have a little chart where they're showing like things bouncing and a couple of colors and things that look like they're going up. And then there's like a line here with another line, and there's like an arrow pointing up, which means that they assume the numbers are going to go up. When this was made, it says Bitcoin's value was roughly around 37,000. Bitcoin's always doing what Bitcoin is going to do. An ounce of gold is roughly around 1,000. That's terrible. It's roughly around 1,900. It says if Glassnode's founders' predictions become true, that Bitcoin will be 100 times worth an ounce of gold, Bitcoin could surge to $199,300, translating to gains of roughly 432%. They also talk about the altcoin market, and they say that they have a Bitcoin altcoin cycle indicator, fancy. And they say that number is currently at 85. I assume when it reaches 100, it basically means that the altcoin season has begun. But I mean, once again, to be fair, markets, we've been moving up pretty good for a while. A lot of people do believe that this is going to be one of the, if not the currently, wildest bull market that we ever have. It has thousands of factors. I can't go over all of them. If you've watched at least the last 15 videos, I think you have a pretty good idea. The idea of a $199,000 Bitcoin, it doesn't even seem lightly unrealistic anymore. I'll be honest with you. I think if we only got to a $250,000 Bitcoin, I think I'd be actually shocked. The amount of momentum that we have, the amount of Bitcoin that's being held, that's not being sold, that's being accumulated, that's being mined, that's not being sold by the people who are mining it, the companies who are getting to it, the companies who've been in the crypto market for a while. It's staggering is no longer the word. We're just waiting for a catalyst. Literally similar to the news that we got before, that a company might potentially have listed and filed on a website. We moved up by $8,000. Sky is basically the limit at this point. But one of the main things that I'm waiting for myself, as opposed to just simply Bitcoin going up, is just Bitcoin overtaking gold. We all know that it's going to happen. I don't know how this can still be a discussion. I've seen people, and I don't know, maybe they disappeared into I don't know, over the last couple of years on Twitter, who tell me that like, oh, I'm wrong. TMI, you're wrong. Gold is going to overtake Bitcoin. And I'm like, what more do you need besides numbers? Like, numbers are so important. Like, I was laughing at something on Instagram the other day. You know how we were all taught like, Pythagorean's theorem, a squared, b squared, c squared, and we had those things where it's like, you're going to go into a store one day and you won't have a calculator with you and it's going to say that something is 67% off from $24.99. You have to do all these like weird calculations. Numbers are incredibly important, but they're even more important like when they're like basic and normal, and we can see like over 14 years like gold hasn't done diddly squat. I'm not going to spend my whole time just talking about gold, but like I don't get how people can like just not see it and like not put their money in some place that's probably going to actually go up. So much like the US SEC news, the Bitcoin versus gold has been going on for a long time. I can't imagine the way that a lot of people are going to feel when they realize that they're holding gold when Bitcoin goes over 250,000. I just don't know. I literally can't begin to imagine what's going to happen. Also tying directly loosely, I'm not really sure. ARK Invest CEO and founder says that the US SEC has started to ask questions about her hedge fund's Bitcoin ETF filing. Until recently, however, the SEC would simply outright reject applications, but apparently they're now having conversations with multiple different companies at the exact same time regarding ETF filings, and Cathie Wood is one of them. Over the course of, I want to say they're like fifth or sixth in line. They were not one of the first ones. They they thought they were. Remember a couple of months ago when she was like, yeah, we're going to get it. Like, we're going to be the first ones. And I was like, I don't know about that. BlackRock exists. Apparently now they're having like active conversations. There are a lot of people from CNBC, ABC, 1, 2, 3, who are all talking about that they think it's basically a given. The SEC's tone has changed, not even like from a, oh my gosh, like, hey guys, let's go have a picnic, like that kind of tone. It's more of a like how they're talking about the situation. When people ask them things on the news, it's not like oh no, this is never going to happen. It's more like we're thinking about it kind of thing. The interesting part is that Cathie Wood has once again ramped up her numbers based on the idea of the ETF approvals with an S, the Bitcoin halving, and also just the general things and what we've been seeing over the course of the last couple of months. She said in a Yahoo Finance interview, I think, so if we look at all the reasons that Bitcoin will scale, our base case today is $600 to $650. That's $650,000. And our bull case, based on the scarcity that is now developing. After this part of her answer, Wood gave an exact figure for ARK Invest's base case. Instead, after emphasizing the limited supply of Bitcoin, she pointed to an imminent onrush of institutional investors, noting, we think that institutions, if the SEC blesses a Bitcoin ETF, institutions will feel like the coast is clear for them to pursue. And we know a lot of institutions have been researching crypto assets for a while, and do agree that it is a new asset class. For those of you who missed it, Cathie Wood basically said that she thinks because of the scarcity and the institutions who are going to rush into the market, that the base case, like the base level of where she thinks Bitcoin will go, is between 600 and 650,000 US dollars. Now, understand that from what we have been told many moons ago, the number was 250K for Bitcoin to be large enough, I believe, to push aside the US dollar. Not like, in completion, but it's more of a, Bitcoin could actually do it if we got to those numbers. I think the idea of, I forgot what a $500,000 Bitcoin means. It basically means like a larger portion of the world's financial system is like, oh my gosh, like that's a gigantic crack. Like what's going on over there? Like we can all kind of tell that something's wrong. The illustrious $1 million Bitcoin basically means like we as a people have held hands and we're like, okay, let's start moving all of our money out of the old system and into Bitcoin. And that's Bitcoin exclusively. That's not to say that other coins would have a bearish case, but it's more of a Bitcoin alone would have that energy. And that is to say the other major coins would also do well as well. The idea of a $650,000 Bitcoin in the next 2 years, I can't honestly imagine what kind of catalyst that would be, because Bitcoin's market cap would be in the trillions. The amount of coins that we and I don't think I have it here. There's a lot of news recently about like Bitcoin's unmoved supply. Like we've heard numbers before, like 92% are being held by wallets with over 100 Bitcoin. I forgot what the other number was for wallets over 1 Bitcoin. We keep hearing all these numbers about like the amount of wallets not moving and the amount of wallets in profit. But now we're hearing about like this hyper unmoved supply. Regardless of how high Bitcoin goes, no one's selling. I always use the pizza guy idea, but no one wants to be that guy. If Bitcoin begins to surge quite rapidly, I saw something earlier. It was from some other analyst. They're everywhere. And it was talking about that they're expecting, if we do get multiple Bitcoin ETF approvals, that by January, February, we could see a $120,000 Bitcoin. And then they're talking about that by the end of 2024, we're over 200K. And that hasn't even begun the actual 2025 bull run. So the optimism is definitely there. We will, of course, at some point in the future, see exactly if we ever hit these numbers. But I'll tell you this and then we'll move on. A $650,000 Bitcoin basically means that the old system is like not even done for. It's like, if you're in it, you're crazy kind of thing. Like you need to understand the scale of how much money has to be put into Bitcoin, how much of an unmovable, illiquid supply there is, and a skyrocketing demand while it's being used, while ETFs and companies are buying it up, while it's being traded. It's something monstrous. Like it's like the wealth of continents just running through this one system. So yeah, Cathie Wood is always in the news. There was also something from, what's this other guy's name? Jimmy Jamajay, Jim. Oh, what's this guy? The guy from the other crypto exchange. Oh, I'm not gonna remember. BitMEX? Arthur Hayes. I was close. I said Jimmy J's. Arthur Hayes is also talking crazy numbers right now, and I try to keep it relatively realistic as far as like where I think numbers can go. My number being 200 to 250. 650 is like, oh gosh, like we need to, find what's the word again? What that guy say? Citadels. Yes, 650 is like Citadel numbers. Anyway, that's the people think that Bitcoin's price is gonna continue rising a lot higher, and overtake gold and basically take over the world. And in the next cycle, like where does that leave us for 2028? What happens when we get to 20? Okay, that's the bullish news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, there's apparently a bunch of euphoria around a new type of token that is being put onto the Polygon blockchain, and it resulted in an unmatched transactional activity spike. It's around that time where everyone wants to talk about how cool, awesome, and amazing their blockchain is. Polygon proof of stake managed to handle apparently 500% more transactions than average without outages and collapses. That's a wink in the direction of another coin who constantly has outages and collapses whenever they have like 14% more transactions. In the middle of November, apparently, the Polygon network, or Matic, the largest layer 2 Ethereum virtual machine blockchain, processed over 16.4 million transactions. Despite the increased transactional pressure, the network performed as intended. This was said by the co-founder Sandeep Nailwal on Twitter. Here's a tweet for it right here. There's a lot more to the article, but I'm going to be honest with you. It's relatively redundant. It's just kind of like repeating things over and over. Apparently, Polygon got to 255 transactions per second. It says that's around 2 to 3 times that of the entire ETH ecosystem combined. Polygon is by far, not sure if you know, one of my favorite altcoins, simply because it does what it says. They did not launch as an Ethereum rival, as something that was going to take out Ethereum. They said, no, we are going to build on top of ETH, and we are going to make it run faster. You might remember during a couple of years ago when Ethereum's fees were skyrocketing and Polygon was like, oh, I got this. Then Ethereum fees fell down back to 17 cents as opposed to like over 1,000 at some point. Like literally over $1,000, which was absolute insanity. Yeah, it's really great to see a chain that is simply working on top of Ethereum do as it said it was going to do. Polygon has a lot of partners. I can't remember they didn't partner with countries. I forgot what it was, but they have like a lot of really huge partnerships. That is to say, like companies and institutions who Polygon did not create, because there's a really weird situation in the cryptocurrency space where a lot of crypto companies are creating other companies, and then they announce that they've partnered with a company that they created, and it's like, well, yeah, you created it. So yeah, we're back to the relative look at what my blockchain can do kind of news. I think Polygon is great. I have for a very long time. I think it will continue to succeed, especially if Ethereum remains number 2 and continues having all this transactional value that it has been having. Polygon is going to step in and keep transaction fees relatively low. And cool. Congrats to them on being able to hit 255 transactions per second while being decentralized. It is not easy. And also, you know, not crashing and then needing to be rebooted, because that would show that you're not decentralized. That's the Polygon. Handled more than 16 million transactions on their chain. And yeah, let's move on. All right, so here's a weird one. Here's something that I think we were supposed to care about, but I personally don't, simply because this was incredibly popular news. But when you hear what the actual news was, you might roll your eyes, similar to me, because I feel like this was something that was planted in our news as a way to kind of like, I'm not, you'll hear exactly what's going on. The president of the European Central Bank, or the ECB, her name is Christine Lagarde, has reportedly revealed that her son invested in crypto despite her warnings. She said, and I quote, He ignored me royally, Lagarde shared, noting that after he lost 60% of the money he invested, she had another talk with him about crypto investing. So the first why on this lightly green earth, as it becomes less and less green, why would I, one, and I say this nicely, care about Christine Lagarde? Two, about like, and I say it in the matter of, she's not broke. Should I care that her son put his money into crypto? Because I'm going to assume he's also not broke either. It's stated that he lost 60% of his money that he invested, but just wait until we actually wait. Just wait. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde disclosed during a town hall with students in Frankfurt on Friday that her son invested in cryptocurrency, despite her repeated warnings, and lost approximately 60% of his investment. One, how do you know he lost exactly 60%? Did he put in, now hear me out, did he put in exactly $1 million and then came to you and said, Mama, I only have exactly 400,000 left. For some reason, the market went down by exactly 60%. And then I said, okay, now I take my money out and I only have exactly, how do you know he lost approximately 60% of his money? She was quoted as saying, he ignored me royally, which is his privilege, and he lost almost all the money that he had invested, end quote. It wasn't a lot, but he lost it all. He lost about 60% of it. She clearly can't count because all is not the same as 60%. So when I then had another talk with him about it, he reluctantly accepted that I was right. Does she think we're idiots? Does she think that we are sitting here like, whoa, Christine Lagarde spoke to her son about crypto and he listened? The first time he didn't listen. He lost a lot of money. But the second time he was like, Mama's right. I'm definitely going to take my money out of this market. Do you think we're idiots? Like what exactly are we supposed to be getting away from this like fairy tale? He reluctantly accepted that you were right about what exactly? The European Central Bank chief has two sons in her mid-30s, but did not disclose which one she was referring to because it was probably neither one of them. I'm going to assume, now hear me out. You know how like rich people have connections, like, you know, like connections. I would assume that the head of the European Central Bank's sons probably went to private school. I don't assume that Christine Lagarde was working at an Aldi. Someone tapped her on her shoulder and was like, hey, I like your gray hair a lot. I really want you to be the head of the European Central Bank. And then she was, flush with cash. I'm going to assume she comes from money and or did well for herself over the course of the last 900 years that she's been on the earth or something like that. So we can only assume that her sons also come from money, have dinero, as the kids say. No one says that anymore. We can only assume then that these people were not randomly typing in make money Bitcoin on the internet, threw their money onto a website and simply just, lost 60% of it, if this even did happen. Normally, if someone tells a story, especially if it's a real one, you go on stage and you go, my son Mark, the other day I was telling him about crypto. He didn't believe me. About a couple weeks later, I sat down and I said, Mark, what happened to your money? Like you give some kind of, real words. Which exactly of your sons did this? How do you know they lost exactly 60? No, sorry. They lost it all. And then they lost 60% of it. You mean to tell me these people who have European Central Bank mommy money didn't go to like an actual brokerage firm? They didn't give it to a professional. They just took their money and put it onto a website. Okay. Surprisingly, she also did not reveal any specific cryptocurrencies that they had invested in or the amount of his investment. Well, that's odd. That's quite weird. Why not give us a crypto, madame? Because we would figure out that you're lying? Because you would tell us a cryptocurrency and we'd be able to go, well, when did that happen? Because Bitcoin has doubled in price this year. Oh, what happened last year? Well, Bitcoin only went down by 14%. Exactly which coin did he put his money into? Oh, and also no specific amount either. I think that's the best one. Like that is, you can even make up a number for us. Like you already think that we're morons, but just give us a number. Just give us any random number. My son put 100 European dollars into this market, lost 60% of it. This was, and I don't want to say the word very popular news. It was more of a this news was all over the place news. As if we were supposed to care. These people have destroyed the world's markets. The European Central Bank, the World Bank, the BIS, the ABC, the 453s, they've done everything that they can to protect the money supply, to protect the economy more than actual human beings who are in the economy. Am I supposed to care that this woman got on stage and lied at a meeting? Who was she lying for? Who does she think? Was she talking in front of students? Were they going to be like, oh my gosh, this old woman got on stage and was like, her fake son lost money. I can never do that. Very weird times that we're in. We used to have a lot of stuff like this years ago within the cryptocurrency space where it was always someone telling like a weird parable or something that they knew. And a lot of these people we found out years later were always lying. These were the people who were like, oh, no, I would never buy Bitcoin. No. It is blockchain, not Bitcoin. And then you get to 2019 and they're like, oh my gosh, I love Bitcoin. So I bought like 9 million of them. And I bought a new house and the price keeps going up and look at how much money I'm making. This was very popular news. And I hate stuff like this because if you're going to lie, at least lie cleverly. Is cleverly a word? Cleverly is a word. Like make up something actually appropriate. Or even more so, just don't lie. Just don't lie directly to our faces. What's the point of you going on stage and telling people a lie about something that did not actually happen? Why do we need to hear this fake story? What do you think you're trying to save us from? Because heaven forbid, what was that guy's name? The guy with the face, the guy from the Squawk Box. He's loud. He's always wrong. Matthew McConaughey. What's this guy's name? The guy who's on CNBC and he's always getting stuff wrong. He mentioned a couple days ago, and I sat there looking at the screen, and he was like, if you like Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Because every single time over the course of the last 5 to 6 years that this man has said that Bitcoin was going down, Bitcoin went up. Bitcoin's going back down to 1,000. Bitcoin hit 70,000. And it's like, you made sure that you got people out of a market that could have actually enriched their lives. Now, let's not be confused because crypto is incredibly volatile. It's an incredibly fragile market. We've seen before what brings us up and what brings us down. But in a world where we see fiat currencies continuing to collapse, and you as the host of a TV show or as the head of the European Central Bank, you know this woman has had conversations with BlackRock before. She's not unaware of what's coming or what's going to happen or what's currently taking place. Why would you make sure that you lie to people to make sure that they don't get into the market? Because I swear to actual goodness, if a fraction of the world finds out that this woman was buying crypto back in 2013, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 2021, 2022, and heaven forbid 2023, people are going to be a little upset when they find out that how much money this woman might have made. In very extremely popular news, the head of the European Central Bank lied to all of us and told us that one of her 2 sons invested in crypto and then lost money. I'm not sure why we're supposed to care. Because I'm certain that they're still rich after it. Like, regardless of how much money they might have put inside. Because if they were broke, she would have been on stage crying. Y'all, this is rough for me to say, but Can you guys cash at me? Because it's rough in these streets. Like she has no more money left. Like it's just, I cringe all the time when these people who make economic policies that only benefit them and their friends lie to us so openly. She could have gone her entire life without telling this lie. Her entire life. Or just named her son, or just been like, yeah, I know he lost some money as opposed to 60%. We all know this is a lie. Anyway, my blood pressure is a little high because it's so disgusting. It drives me absolutely insane. This goes, last point, but this goes completely hand in hand years ago where I kept on trying my best. I cannot and will not ever tell you explicitly what to do with your money. But this is very similar to me seeing a lot of these crappy altcoins being created. A lot of you know, deep in your heart, a lot of the coins in your portfolio you should not have because you know that they're garbage. However, when you as the creator of one of these coins go and tell people, yeah, this is the new Bitcoin, knowing that you're misleading people so that you can rug pull and you can do all these other things, it makes me extremely sad. Not in like a crying in the street kind of way, but it's more of like we could all be so much further along as a society if these people who control the world didn't continuously lie so that they can make an extra buck. You're worth millions. You're worth billions. Like, just leave everyone else alone. Like, let us try to create a brand new, more stable, equal society. But that's a completely different topic entirely. Anyway, that's the Christine Lagarde told us that her son lost money and ignored her, and then reluctantly was like, "You're right, Mom. Sure." Because I would love nothing more than for the follow-up of that story in 2025 when he burst angrily into her room and says, I could have made $4.3 million, but you made me sell it. And or simply just don't lie to us because I'm certain. Whatever. Anyway, that's the Christine Lagarde news. Very popular. Not sure why we were supposed to care because they're still rich. I sincerely do hope that you have all enjoyed my little internet breakdown. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And apparently getting ready for a $200,000 to a $650,000 Bitcoin. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See